That felt so on point for me, because when I'm ready for something to change and for something to happen, that resistance, and maybe it takes a week, maybe it takes a couple years, and it really felt like your heart left the building, like go with it, go with it. And so I think just coming full circle to just realize, have you read that to me, and wow, I'm here in a place where I feel whole and I feel embodied with like all the other parts of me. It's a good feeling. It's a good feeling. It's like I'm here with myself.
I find myself in a constant state of wonder and joy and just nostalgia listening through this conversation that was recorded over 3 years ago now in a small coastal town in Oaxaca in southern Mexico with a dear friend. Now, our friendship started in 2018, and now it's been just about 8 years. Through all the time zones and regions, we've stayed in touch, and this friendship is so special to me. And to be able to record this under the same roof, sharing how we've gotten here, sharing the joys and gratitude we have for that present moment, living there. It's just so special. And even though it's been some time since the recording of this, so much of it still holds true for me, and I think for Andy too. You'll hear how we connect and some of the choices and mishaps that's gotten us to where we are today. So without further delay, enjoy this special conversation with a dear friend, Andy Vantrease.
Here we are.
Today.
What is the date? January 23rd?
23rd. 1, 2, 3.
Oh, that's kind of nice. I'm sure we could ask somebody out on the street here in Mazunte, Mexico, and they'll have some really sacred...
Probably every one out of
there's
3
a
people.
Ceremony happening for it.
Let's do a numerology reading about that.
Yeah, exactly.
So speaking of, can you kick us off this brilliant podcast recording? Can you kick us off by telling us where we are and how we've found ourselves here? You and I physically.
Yeah.
How has this magic unfolded?
Well, we're in Mazunte, Mexico, on the Oaxaca coast. It's this beautiful beach town that I can speak for myself and how I am here, and then you can weave in.
I like that.
Because how you're here is different.
Yes, thank you.
But I came to Mexico this winter because I really wanted to... I really was like ready for another adventure. I mean, I hadn't left the US for 4 years, and although I was in Montana for most of that time, lockdowns weren't too crazy there, and I was luckily in a place that had seemingly endless natural space to be in during the craziness of COVID. It's still, for me, not having left the States in 4 years was like a long time. Felt like a really long time.
Especially as we're going to talk about some more, you have a track record of traveling and being in different places and learning from different places. So yeah, 4 years.
Yeah.
And you have this opportunity.
Yeah, and I was like, I feel, sounds so cliche, but like I really do feel like I'm in a pretty transitional place in my life. I guess we're always in transition of some sort. I was just really feeling like stagnant. The way I describe it was like, even though Montana is really gorgeous and I felt really held by the land there and connected to the mountains and the rivers and nature, and I met, some really lovely people. On paper, everything checked out, but it didn't, like, life didn't feel as magical or colorful as I want it to.
Yeah.
And so for me, like, finding that a lot of times comes from experiencing, different cultures, different cuisines, different music, languages, just kind of like the the beauty that comes from being able to learn and experience people and places that are different from me. And Montana, just by, I don't know why, but it's a lot of the same. It's a lot of the same as far as like culture goes. So I was just really like, okay, I'm ready for an adventure. I'm ready to spice things up a bit. And I really also wanted to focus on learning Spanish because that's something I've studied for a while in school and just have never lived in a place where I've been able to use it. So my two goals coming down here were learn Spanish and dance. That kind of came from wanting to just move my body and like be in my body in a different way.
And it's winter.
Yeah. And it's winter. Although I like winter. I actually like winter, but it's too long. Like it's really long there.
It's long. And to move your body in the way that you're describing, to learn Spanish during the winter in Montana, in the part of Montana that you were, it's actually a bit challenging to line that up.
Yeah, to land that opportunity. Yeah, I could probably seek it out. Like I could hang out with Chef Claudia a lot more and stuff.
And she's like, why are you always here?
Yeah, she's like, I can't keep feeding you.
She probably can.
Yeah, she probably can. So it's just a combination of, wanting to inhabit my body in a different way, wanting to feel the warmth of the Spanish language, wanting to just shake things up a bit.
Have a change of scenery.
Yeah.
Be surrounded by diversity, as you say, something that was missing in Montana. Mm-hmm. It checks the boxes.
Yeah.
It's great because wasn't it just a few months ago, you and I hopped on a call. You had some questions about Mexico specifically and then Latin America in general. Mm-hmm. And here we are.
Yeah. I know. You're always such a good, like, if I'm like, okay, I want to go to this place, I'm like, I wonder if Jonathan's been there. Because if he has, there's like a very organized, structured, like, list of pins and maps and favorite places and all these things. I know you. And so it's always like, if he's been there, then I have at least like a starting point of places to really go. And I mean, I think being down at the coast, I was up north first for 3 weeks and, liking it, but not loving it. There wasn't enough nature access for me. And I also, my body was really craving to be in humidity, and up north I was like, found myself in high desert again, just like Montana. And I was like,
too similar.
What?
Yeah.
So you were the one that kind of got me in touch with Camila, and then I met her down in the mountains, and then we came here. So it all worked out well.
It's brilliant. I have all the bookmarks. I think for those who are listening who know me well enough to know that I have thousands of bookmarks on Google Maps and other apps. They're laughing when you said that.
Yeah.
They may still be laughing now.
Yeah, we know. We know where to find the goods.
And I'm happy to give pointers of places that have been really great in my life and that I've enjoyed, whether that's a restaurant or a guest house, direct contacts. What a gift to be able to pass it along so easily, just like through the internet. So yeah, I'm happy you're here. My goodness. And it sure seems like from the fact that we've been housemates on and off now for a few weeks, it's there's a lot of vibrancy. There's a lot of just a lived experience. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like this morning, you came back from a little cruise out to the ocean to watch whales and stingrays and sea turtles. Like, what a brilliant way to
start a freaking day. And we were like, oh my gosh, can you believe we get to start our day like this? All of us on the boat were saying that.
The reminders of like, my gosh, this planet is magical.
And having animal encounters, like I got stung by my first scorpion the other night. And I'm not even mad about it because I was like, wow. Well, I'm not mad about it because it was little, thank goodness. And it didn't, I mean, it hurt. Gosh, it hurt. But it didn't leave any lasting damage. And so it's just like, wow, I don't know. I kind of feel like, oh, I got kissed by a little scorpion. And then today I got stung by this jellyfish, and I wasn't even mad about that either because I was snorkeling and saw it underwater, and it was incredibly cool. It didn't look like a regular jellyfish in the sense that it had like the mushroom cap with the tentacles. It was like a triangle almost, and it lit up. Like it had all these like iridescent but actually lights. It looked like a little LED light pod.
Like a lantern.
Yeah, like a little lantern.
Whoa.
And so I was like, this is so cool. And then the tour this morning, and then I've been doing this kind of routine where I go to meditations at the yoga center across the street in the mornings. It's called Hridaya. Such a beautiful place, and they do like a lot of workshops and intensives and modules and things. But I go to that from 7 to 8, and this has been blowing my mind because I have never had a consistent meditation practice ever. In all the years I've worked at the yoga center, the Feather Pipe Ranch, in all the years that I've
the fact that you've done a yoga teacher training.
Yeah, I've done a yoga teacher training. Like, I have never felt so good and grounded in a consistent practice than I have. And it's only been 2 weeks here, but it's like I'm really, it's weird. I feel impressed with myself, but not in like this egotistical way, like in this way that I'm like, wow, that's possible. Cool. What else is possible? And so I go there, and then the reason I started saying that is because then I go down to the beach after, and I've had this experience of like I found this little tide pool. And the other day I just like sat in the tide pool and everything came to life. Like there were tiny little crabs that I've never seen, all these different kind of fish, some crazy looking other organisms that I'm like, I hope this doesn't sneak up into like a orifice in my body somehow.
It's gonna sting you too.
Please stay on the exterior.
And you won't be mad about it.
Yeah. And it's just, so things are just alive here, and like
you feel alive.
I feel alive. There's so many ways to be engaging and like interacting with other living things. And so yeah, it's just, I think it's like a really easy place to feel the pulsation of the earth and to kind of have what I feel like is, it's like my nervous system is able to sync with the rhythm of the land and the ocean here.
That's really good to hear. That's something that, even having lived together for some days and some weeks, that I haven't heard you directly say that, but to say that reminds me of the fact that we are in a small town where there's little noise besides along the main street here. And thankfully we live far enough from it where we don't hear it directly. It's not as blatant. And so the sensory overload, in my opinion, here is pretty low. And because of that, we're able to hear the ocean, hear the birds, especially in the morning when we're waking up, right? The wind that comes through, and all the insects, at certain hours of the day. And there's a certain rhythm, because we notice, like there's more of that sound in certain parts of the day, or there's more of that sound. We're like, oh, that's a new noise. So we're tapping into the ecosystem here. Whereas in some of the places I've lived, especially in the places where I grew up, right, in big, dense urban environments, it's always man-made noises. Yeah. And so we've unfortunately tuned out to the sounds of other living beings that we share this planet, this space with. And we forget sometimes, because of that, they exist. And we forget, everything in nature has a cyclical nature, right? The tides, the lunar cycle, the seasons, my goodness. And even though we are in a tropical setting here, there is still variations in the dry and wet season, for example. The sun is starting to get up a little earlier and set a little later. Yeah. And because we are not covered by buildings and facades and billboards, we can see like, sunset's a little later today. Or like, you're able to access the ocean so easily. And so all that, as you say, it's like, it's calming your nerves. You're more in touch with your body. And I can see like, you're just healthier.
I feel so healthy right now, like, which isn't, me, it's not always the case. Like, I have a very sensitive system, and it took me a while to acclimate to Mexico. I got an amoeba like day 4 and was sick for weeks.
Bienvenida.
Yeah, bienvenida,
and
Mexico.
Then it was like, oh, what a like difficult trial beginning for you.
But everybody, I was kind of warned. And every time I go somewhere new, like, my body has been through quite a few things, in my lifetime, as far as like different diseases and bacterias and viruses and all these kinds of crazy things that I've overcome. And so like just that it's kind of a catch-22. It's like going through a lot of that. It makes your system more resilient in some ways, and also more sensitive and tuned in to imbalances. That's kind of how I look at it. Instead of making it a negative, like, oh, I'm so sensitive. It's like my body is super tuned in, and it wants what it wants, like it's a delicate ecosystem, and I just try to treat it like that. And so a huge marker of like how I'm doing in all aspects of life is like how my body feels, and I don't know if other people look through that lens. Maybe they do. I mean, I just, for me, it's like it's kind of the North Star. Like, is my digestion, regular? Is that like, how's my energy levels? Like my tiredness, like how's my mental clarity? Like these are things that I'm kind of always gauging. And here, I think it's a really good mixture of like a slower pace of life. For us projectors, we really dig that kind of thing.
Human
design plug. Like slower pace of life, like fresh fruits and vegetables. We're cooking a lot, which is really good, both like to get the nutrients, but also just to like put the love into, our own food. And then also like the people I'm meeting and the things that I'm like community-based stuff that feels really nourishing on like a social level. And I also am like digging the work I'm doing right now too, as far as like being able to work here and produce the Dandelion Effect podcast, from Mexico this winter. Like I feel incredibly grateful for that. Yeah. And so it's just one of those moments, I guess, where a lot of things are lined up, and my body is reflecting that, and my happiness is reflecting that.
Brilliant. Some of my audience has been, they're curious about the living maybe a little nomadically, whether that's a few times out of the year, maybe for extended weeks or months, or maybe just doing it full time. And a lot of people bump into the issue of, oh, how do I just use up my savings? Do I have to like work really hard and save up, or am I actually able to create some sort of like income, maybe working remote while I'm being in a different geographic location? So it came up earlier in a conversation for me. You may be the first guest who shared this aspect of life with me.
Okay,
so
cool.
We get to explore that. I think I like that. Yeah. So I think to maybe set the stage for us and the people who are listening, love to know a bit more context as to, the podcast and the other types of work that you're good at, that you're doing, that you're offering. And what does that mean to you that now you're bringing this out of Montana, out of the US, and you're exercising your craft and continuing to make connections and learn more as you do the work as well? It seems so multifaceted yet fulfilling for you as a professional in that realm.
Yeah, it is starting to even seem like more multifaceted to me as well, which is really interesting because I can remember this point in Montana maybe 5 years ago, in 2017 summer. And I was talking with my friend Jen. She's a sound healer at the Featherpipe Ranch, and really being impressed by some of the writing that I've done, and, just think you should go for this. I think you should. She was basically saying like, focus on the writing, focus on the writing. You're so good at this. And my thought was like, I don't want to be pigeonholed to just be a writer. Like that, I remember having that thought like that whole summer. And what's been interesting is like, I have those moments in my creative process a lot where like it feels like there's something else coming, but I don't know what it is yet. And I don't know like the path that my own like creative evolution is going to take. And since that summer and since I had those thoughts, like I'm still doing quite a bit of writing, but I've also pivoted to now hosting and producing a podcast for the last 2.5 years. And that has been huge growth because I've never worked in audio before. I basically, offered up this idea to the Featherpipe Ranch to say, hey, we're not having a season this year, but how do we still stay engaged with our community? The several hundred people that come through for workshops
This is the first year of the pandemic.
Yeah, first year of the pandemic in 2020. And we're kind of sitting around and saying, how do we still put positivity out? How do we stay engaged? And I'm like, well, what about a podcast? Because I'm like admittedly a podcast junkie. I listen to so many podcasts. And I did at that time too. And they're like, well, yeah. Is that something that you would want to do? Would want to spearhead? And I'm like, I guess so. And it was interesting to take all of the experience and skill sets from being a writer who interviewed a lot of people for my articles to then switch into a whole separate medium of audio and interviewing people, on audio and doing all the editing and all of that. And so that I think has been a really big expansive move creatively for me and work-wise for me, because I have been able to hone in and lean in on different aspects of getting to know people and getting to know myself. Like I'm just actually thinking about this for the first time. This is pretty interesting. I think when I started to become a freelance writer, which was a while ago, I would always have these points in my life where I never really believed that I could make a living strictly being a writer. Like I always wanted it to be a side gig where I would just do some freelancing and then like bartend, or I would have a sales job, but I would like freelance on the side.
It's like the day job and side gig thing.
Right. And I think for the most part that actually worked well because it didn't put so much pressure on the writing. And I think that's important for creative processes a lot of times. But when I really started in the last couple years to like go for bigger projects and to like price out my work and to really think about what actually makes me a good writer, it's not the finished product. It's the questions that I ask people. It's how I can sit with somebody and I'm interviewing them and I can make them feel comfortable and make them trust me enough to tell me their story, either whether it's from a business sense or a personal sense. Like I do all kinds of writing gigs. It's taking having a big couple hour session of an interview and pulling the key points and the gems out of that and condensing it down to like this really powerful essence of who somebody is or what business, what the business does, what they want to portray. And it's then like mulling that over in my head of how to, like show this company to the world on a website or in an article or whatever, in the best way I possibly can. Those are so many other skill sets besides just like, oh, you can write things and they sound good. And so that really helped me when I started to price out my services, when I was like, okay, I really would like to be doing this more rather than just a side gig. Like, how can I sustain myself on this? Because there is a lot of background energy and there's a lot of background skill that goes into it. And the same thing for photography and videography. As entrepreneurs and freelancers, like, we are our business. Like, everything that we bring to the table, all of the podcasts I've ever listened to are coming with me in my brain to every single interview I do. The ways that I treat my body the day before an interview, that's coming with me. Do you know what I mean? It's like we are our businesses. And so that, when I started to think about writing in that way, I started to realize, like, oh my God, I actually have way more skills than I even thought. And how can I translate those that I really like to do and use to other projects and to other services? And so that really opened me up. So I would say I primarily wrote from like 2012 to 2020.
Yeah.
So for 8 years, like my creative work was writing. And then we started the podcast, and I had to learn and change and shift and grow of like how to have these interviews with people in audio, which is very different than just like recording on a digital recorder and like, you know, using that to write and then just trashing it. And then from that.
And a dynamic of needing to interview people online.
Yeah.
Because then the work was no longer maybe like in person, or like you can, it became a real-time writing piece, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because often it was like you would talk to people, whether that's through phone, email, combination of meeting up in person. And as you said, you had this creative process of taking what's said, what's conveyed, and then you put it in a way that is more clearly to maybe what a company or person's mission and vision is. But in this case, like, there are these micro decisions you have to make at every point.
Oh, yeah.
While taking into account technology and maybe lags and you know, like the person didn't really hear you, interruptions on Zoom, you know, we've all been there.
Yeah.
And then you go, okay, like, how do I steer the ship? Because like the person that you're interviewing may have a lot of skill sets and great knowledge, wisdom to pass, but you as the host of the podcast is still very much in charge of like, okay, we're going to steer the conversation this way.
Absolutely.
I'm going to like, hey, can you elaborate a little bit more on this point? It's like a good sports coach. Mm-hmm. Looking at the game going, okay, if I have player so-and-so here, then they can make it, you know. It's incredible. It's exactly what you're saying. It's so multi-dimensional than just a singular label of like, I'm a writer. It's so much more.
It's so much more. And it's like, and then you go, okay, and then I'll put myself in the category of I, you know, produce a podcast. Okay, well, that's the finished product that people hear. But exactly like you just said, what goes into that? And I think that is where I have started to really have fun as a freelancer and as a creative, I think, because I really like to shy away from getting pigeonholed into like an identity of what creative avenue I'm going down, and just actually look at it from the skill sets or the talents or the, I guess we could use those two words. None of those really seem to fit. The bigger picture of the moving parts of what makes me like a certain project and what makes me good at a certain project. And then from there, now that you're kind of looking at it from the lens of the skill sets, it's like, where could you use those in other ways? And this year, I will say this year in 2022, it has been my most successful year financially ever as a freelancer and as an entrepreneur. I really started leaning into the word entrepreneur. Like, I have never considered myself that. And one day I like looked around, I was like, oh, I guess I am doing this life. Like I never sought out to do this. It just basically happened because I wanted to have freedom to travel and freedom to like work from different places. And
you choose who you work with and when you work, right?
Yeah.
You have the autonomy.
Yeah. And so looking back on 2020 and saying like, wow, okay, so that was a really powerful year for me kind of stepping into what gifts that I could bring to the table. And it was so cool because I was still freelance writing a bit. I was just getting like different projects. I did a really big like website content production project where I got to work with like a team of website developers for this like TV production company. That was a bigger project than I'd ever done. I also thought of, okay, if I'm doing these podcasts with people and putting those pieces out to the public, and the guests of that podcast are coming back to me and saying, hey, that was a really profound experience to be able to go back through my life and have all these questions asked about my life. How could I do that then using that same skill set and same kind of touch and feel of like what I wanted to help people feel like? How could I use that in a different setting? And that's when I created the story mapping at the Feather Pipe Ranch in the summer, which essentially was like a one-on-one private storytelling session with guests who would come to the workshop. So it was this like lateral pivot, this really interesting pivot of like, okay, I'm doing this for the podcast, finding out that this is really helpful for people. And then now offering it to individual people who come there for the retreats.
It's almost like a private podcast for one.
A private podcast for one. And then one step further, and then maybe, I don't know how much more you want to hear this, but one step further is then like
Please.
Taking that and having a couple people do that the first summer that I offered it and said, wow, this is super powerful. Could you do this in a group? Could you do story mapping in a group? We work with this group, like we do self-care for healthcare workers and nurses, and we want to offer this story mapping and help people explore like their stories, because often we help people who feel really stuck in their jobs and they don't know how to pivot and transition. And what your work does like helps people to gain perspective and realize they have choice and all of that. And so then I found myself like facilitating essentially like a women's circle, story map circle for 15 nurses in California. And it's like it's like the same skill set, just used in different audiences, different formats. Different applications.
You're adapting it to, I think the underlying, if I may, take what you've shared so far and zoom out even a little bit. Love zooming out. It goes to show that it's the underlying need of people and groups of people. This is who we are. The need to be understood, the need to be heard. Like, this is the story. And often you come across people sharing facets, snippets of their life, stories of their life where they've never shared it with anyone or less than a handful of humans on this planet. But as you said earlier on, you've created the space and the container in which they feel comfortable to bring that forward. Mm-hmm. So I do applaud you for like creating that, and you're applying it at all different levels. I can see, for example, I won't even be surprised, Andy, if in the future you're like, oh, Deloitte hit me up and they want me to come in and do a corporate like story mapping session for them. I'll be like, yeah, sounds about right. Like, it's taking this long, but about time.
Yeah.
And I'll be there clapping and congratulating you, because the need for us humans to be understood and heard is such a universal truth.
Yeah.
That I think no matter if it's a corporation to, a rural countryside farmer, it's still applicable. And so I think you found yourself in a radically well-positioned spot to offer yourself. And of course, you then get into, because you're an entrepreneur, you have to filter out and go, okay, who can I realistically work with? Because I'm still one person. And who has the ability to exchange services that I need, and of course the financial payback. But here you are, you're applying yourself, you're meeting people who are doing really radical work in different realms in Mexico. You're doing this project, the Dandelion Effect Podcast through the Federal Pipe Ranch in Montana. What a great place in both your personal life and your professional life. It's brilliant. Yeah. I know you're celebrating, but I hope you continue to celebrate that fact and that you still feel invigorated. As you've mentioned a couple of times, you're still learning from the work, and wow, how radical, how cool is that?
I think that's a big piece of it too. I think there's two things that just came to my mind. One is that the underlying theme for me in what I was, what I was just trying to lay out was that I think it has really benefited me to not be afraid to try new things. Like I could have easily said, no, I don't want to do a podcast. I'm a writer. Or I could have said, no, I don't want to do a group facilitation. I'm a podcast host. Or I could have said, no, I don't work with, I'm not a therapist, or I'm not a space holder. I'm not. So that, you know what I mean? It's just it's just, how can you continue to not fall into the labels of your job? Because something really cool could come through. And like you said, all of them have a connective thread of helping people see who they really are. And if I were to have a tagline of any of the stuff I do, it's, I want to show people their own magic. And there's so many ways to do that. How cool to have endless options of how to do that. And to your point too, of just continuing to learn. There are things that aren't super interesting to me anymore, and I'm allowing them to shift, and that's been part of the transition that I mentioned in the beginning. I'm allowing those things to shift. I'm allowing them to feel boring for a while, and then saying, okay, well, maybe life and work is asking for a different direction. And that's part of the creative process too. Knowing when things want to die, knowing when things want to disintegrate, so that something else can grow out of the compost of that.
They need to, because if you don't clear the soil and the canopy, there is no space for something to sprout, and there's no sunlight hitting the leaves so it can grow. And so you gotta do the weeding, right? The mental weeding.
Yeah.
To make space for something else. I want to come back to the fact that we're sitting in your room, and your possessions right now that I'm looking at surrounding me is a desk of work stuff and art, books, and a 40-liter backpack and a 16-liter day bag.
That's it.
And I'm bringing this up not only because I'm in your room and we're both living this lifestyle, but because I'm hearing it in multiple threads in what you've been sharing. And even the simple fact that we're able to be here. And I think there's real value. It's declutter physically, metaphorically, and there's real benefits to allow, as you've just shared, other things to come in, other things that you can say yes to. Yeah.
I mean, lately I'm just really fascinated by this idea of allowing the cyclic nature of life to show up in all aspects of life. So we've used it as an example of a work project where, or a way that you work or something like that, where it's there's going to be a point where this podcast doesn't feel like it's my thing anymore. There's going to be that point. And how do I honor that time and honor the energy and effort and love and creativity that went into that, and not fight when it wants to shift? That can happen with work projects. It can happen with work structure, something that used to work for you if you were working a 9 to 5 and okay, you really dug it for a couple years, but now, I'm craving more freedom, or you had a baby and you need to be home, or whatever it is. Like, how can you shift that and honor what once served you? And now, hey, you're looking for something different. You need something different. I think it's so cool to do that with work. And right now, like, I see that a lot in relationships in my life. And it's just the same honoring, the same flow of like when certain relationships, friendships, romantic, business relationships, when it really feels like it's naturally asking for a shift, how can you allow that disintegration and like end to happen and not fight it? Because I think that in like Western culture, we're so afraid of death. We're so afraid of endings. Business and economy is obsessed with growth, endless growth, linear growth, like year over year growth. That is not natural. Things have to die. The creative process of everything has to be in a cycle and a circle. And so I don't know, I'm just really fascinated by like how I can apply that natural law to all aspects. And I even think about it, like you mentioned, like just the couple things I have in my closet, like it's even kind of cool to do with clothes. I'm like looking at a couple of my things like, man, that's pretty tattered. I've had that for like 10 years. Eventually, I'm going to give it to somebody else. Yeah. I'm going to put it in a free box at a hostel or something. Or, it's just like, it's like really starting to live and embody the reducing, reusing, recycling, composting, like these natural laws that make our world go round. Yeah. It's really thinking in that way of how can I apply that to everything?
To more aspects of our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. I love that.
Yeah.
It's great because if it wasn't for the fact that we're in your room,
I know,
that analogy wouldn't have popped up. But now like we're going, oh, but this is more than just about the clothes that happen to be sitting here. It is the deeper, the mindsets, the attitude towards letting things go, letting people go, letting projects go, allowing more time. Well, maybe this is the shift, like allowing more time for oneself.
Yeah.
As you shared earlier, and this is something that I've been doing occasionally as well, much to my own benefit, is going to the retreat center to take part in the public 1 hour morning meditation. It's such an invaluable offering. I can tell you from my end today, I feel calm and grounded and content. And all I did was wake up early, go meditate, go sit by the ocean for a little bit, come back, make breakfast, and prepare for this.
Yeah.
And I've made $0, and I couldn't be more content with how this day has unfolded.
Yeah.
And here I am. My work has become such that I get to interview friends. And in this case for you, we've known each other for coming up to 5 years and talked online a little bit before that. Yeah. I'm doing what I'm doing with you because I want to show off my friends. There is that. But the deeper reason is because I think you and so many of the people that I've crossed paths with have such valuable and fun snippets and stories and lessons and wisdom to share. And to call this my work is just magic. There's no other way to put it. So I'm really thankful. And so as I even saying this and I'm reflecting this, I'm like, my body is like overcoming with this buzz and like gratitude. And I'm feeling it from you as well, because you're reflecting on what is now 10 plus years of your professional life. And we haven't even really tapped into who Andy Vantrease is before that in all the other ways outside what you're interested in and your vocation. So it's like, it really is giving me so much. So thank you for what you've shared so far. And I really think we can go like so many places.
You know, when I was younger, I used to kind of roll my eyes and not at all understand, and of course skip through the credits and acknowledgments when movies and TV shows or podcasts, the host talks about like, oh, we gotta thank this person and this person. It just goes on and on and on. I never really understood it. And I think in the last few years alone, I've really come around and realized even the smaller projects like this require a whole team. They really require a whole community around it. And so I'm here to proudly acknowledge the humans since the launch of my Patreon in 2018 who have been contributing or contributed in the past, acknowledged all that they've done. The time they've given to give me comments and dropping messages, giving me advice, and of course, dropping in their hard-earned dollars or whatever currency they're earning in to support me and all the projects that I've devoted my time to, including the Wilderness Within podcast. Thank you so much, you all. Really means a lot for your support, past, present, future. You make my dreams come true. You allow me to trust that each month I'm gonna have this nice little baseline of income that really sustains me and allows me to go, hey, like I can commit to this project. I'm gonna buy that piece of gear. I'm gonna hire that person. I'm gonna invest in myself, in the services and goods that allow me to create and try new things and experiment. And all of this is a part of it. So grateful for your support. A shout out is also in order through my brothers, Carlos Militante and Scott Hansen, for the beautiful soundtrack we get to enjoy here, and everyone who likes, subscribes, comments, reshares on social media and through my newsletter. If you're in a position to help support this project, please head over to patreon.com/subtledream to consider being a supporting patron. Thank you so much. Back to the episode.
I definitely share the gratitude for being able to do the work that we do, because I think that even just like yesterday, you know, we went to a friend of ours created this deck of cards called Radical Truth cards. And essentially it's a way for people to enter into more meaningful and in-depth conversations about like the bigger, you know, themes of life and the deeper truths that we all hold that a lot of times we are too busy or too scared, honestly, to reveal to each other. And so our friend Mo created this game where you like draw a card and it asks you a question, and you know, it can be with one other person or it can be with like a group of people. And it really cuts through the small talk. Like you are crying with people you've never met. You are like shaking out of nerves. I can't believe I'm telling strangers this story. And it really helps you connect with people. And so I was there as a participant. You were there as the film photographer and the videographer. And I was just like pinching myself yesterday, going like, I can't believe we get to participate in something like this. This is so incredible. Like I really believe that those types of things that bring people together in that way is what is changing the world. Like I do believe that. And I just get goosebumps thinking about that because there are so many ways to do good, and like we get to do it from the lens of helping other people tell their stories, from like connecting people together and filming it, from interviewing people, from opening our own hearts and like looking into the heart of another person and then maybe sharing that conversation out. Like there's all these different dynamics, but like, oh my fucking God, like I can't believe this is what we get to do. And yes. I feel like I'm learning from each person I talk to. I mean, the more people that I get to interview and the more people that I get to work with, opening my heart every single time to a different way of living, to this other human being that has, you know, maybe a lot of similar struggles that I do, and we connect on that. Or maybe it's they've lived a completely different life than I do, and I get to say, wow, I didn't even know that was possible, you know? And so you're just expanding, opening, and there's just this like seat of compassion and empathy behind all of it that brings us all together. And so yesterday, the first question I pulled in that group was like, what are you most grateful for in life? And my answer actually was like, I'm grateful for the people who have believed in me and have like supported me to be able to do the work that I do. You know, like how lucky that I have people that see me so that I can then go out into the world and give my gifts and, you know, just do what I do to help bring people together.
It's like the person earlier just now who said to you, yeah, you gotta stick with the writing. Maybe not in a way that's like, limit yourself to writing.
Yeah.
But it's like, your writing is great.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Those little praises, like just even the people back home who, you know, there's so many people along our paths that like encouraged us and cheered us on and are continuing to do so. And a lot of them have never come on my travels with me, you know, like it's just like, you know, family and friends and people who like kind of hold down the fort when I'm fluttering about in different countries and I can come back and I can land with them. Or it's, you know, people I meet here that are like, God, what you're doing is really cool. I mean, it's just like, we're completely connected at all times. And it's like, can be like emotionally overwhelming at times, just like how much support that we have when we really think about it, to be able to be here and do what we do.
Thank you for sharing that. I think the beauty is, I heard it yesterday and I'm hearing it today, but I have I have different reactions. First of all, I wasn't surprised. And I think the beauty is because you and I are friends and we've kind of touched onto that, maybe not that directly, but having heard yesterday, I was more in the mindset of like, I'm working, I want to capture this, I want to make sure all the technology is working right, and that I'm kind of in a way co-hosting, making sure the space is quiet and safe and people feel comfortable to share. I participated as well, but the primary objective of my being there was to ensure that the genuine shares, the emotions, and the vulnerability that was shown by you, by other participants, was captured so that it can be retold, reconveyed visually and auditorily to other people, and with the hopes that, you know, they would pick up the radical truth deck and utilize it and get value out of it, right? So I heard it, you know, I was moved, but in hearing it now, just you and I in this container, especially having just talked for the last 45 minutes or so, I feel it in a different way. Like I'm facing it, and it's making me, because I don't have other distractions of like, oh, press that button and make sure that's running, of like, oh yeah, what does that mean for me? Which aspects of what Andy just shared resonate in my life? Who am I grateful for? What am I grateful for? Besides the obvious, right? The basic needs. It's like, okay, there are real humans who have contributed in so many ways so that I can be here, right? And we can trace it back 2 days ago. We can trace it back to 3 months ago. We can trace it back to the time of our inception, you know?
Yeah.
It is a multi-decade, and, you know, you can trace it back if you really think of it in an indigenous wisdom manner, like multi-generational, like thought. And I think if I'm definitely getting the goosebumps, full chicken skin here. I think if I myself and more people, and I think you can agree to this already. It's like, if more of us can think in that manner, more of us can operate with that in mind, this like feeling of gratitude, and that we're not doing this alone, and that we're not out there competing, one-upping one another, and that there are enough resources for and existing knowledge for us to understand and learn and apply to not only be satiated by the basic needs, but be truly sustainably content with our life, with our work, with the people that we choose to be around, with our existing relationships that may have had some hardships. How do we approach that with more care? How do we approach that with more compassion? How do we approach that with, as you just shared, a wider perspective? Because of all these ways of beings that are possible, that none of these ways of beings are the one only truth. Wow, like how powerful would that be if you and I are able to practice that daily? If you and I can spread that to the people that we're close to, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's people you go to yoga class with, that you just like share a bus ride with, like whatever the circumstances are, then work is not work with a heaviness where you look forward to the happy hour.
Yeah.
You know, work is then maybe something that you look forward to, something that you want to do, something that you're like, hey, today at work, I'm going to learn about how to make a podcast.
Yeah.
Today at work, I'm going to help Auntie Susan, you know, build her back shed. At work today, like I'm helping my boss make his vision possible. One of the signs that I read when I was bike touring through the Indian Himalayas is my favorite. It's handwriting by paints out of a canister. It's not printed, okay? But it's on this metal sign that's probably been hit by multiple buses and maybe been shot at, who knows, right?
Yeah.
But it's still standing on the side of the Himalayas on this twisty mountain road, right? And here I am pedaling at 4,000 meter elevation, huffing and puffing, trying to avoid cars and the dust that's coming through. And I'm reading every single sign because I'm going at like 5 kilometers an hour.
You have time to do that. yeah.
Right? And this one sign says 3 words. 3 words that stuck with me for over 6 years. Work is devotion.
Oh. Yeah. What does it mean to you? Like, how does it land with you? Why is it something that you've remembered?
I'm like getting emotional just thinking about it. Thank you for... I think it's really evolved. I think at the time, this is 2016. So I just turned 30. And the reason why I was biking there is because what better way to bring in a new decade than to put myself out in an area that I want to spend time at, I've been dreaming about spending time in, and to put myself in a position where I can travel very cheaply, I can push the limits of my body, and do it in a way that very few people do. I'm on my own schedule, and I can camp and hike and bike as much as I want every single day. For me, it's like dreamy.
Yeah.
It still kind of is. When I had just turned 30 and that point in my life, I still saw work as a means to make ends meet. But it was starting in my late 20s and my early 30s where I was shifting my definition of work such that, I want to start really attracting who I work with. I want to start doing projects that are in alignment with my interests and curiosities. So for me, work at the time was like, okay, start thinking about that, but I am going to make compromises. I need to work like retail. I need to like sell things on Craigslist and eBay and do a bit of this like little side hustle to make ends meet. So it's like money's money. Like I need it, but I didn't really see work fully as devotion. But this quote, as you can see, really captivated me and has been imprinted in me, in my memory. And so I find myself, actually, I love that you're asking me, because I find myself revisiting the meaning of work, why we do it, why also that some work lends itself to you wanting to do more of it. And some you're just like, I'm done. Like, I just want to like check out
Never
and
doing that
watch
again.
Netflix and not think about it, right?
Yeah.
So it's fascinating. And I think now that I'm later into my 30s, I'm really happy to say that that initial seed that was planted of like, I do need to find alignment and be attracting similar interests and curiosities has elevated. I'm now doing a large majority of work that I enjoy, even if it's still difficult and challenging. I'm doing work that I'm choosing with people that are attracted to me as much as I'm attracted to them. And I think that theme will continue.
Yeah.
So I want to see work more as devotion than ever, and that devotion is a beautiful thing. Because I think if we can practice that in our work and we're successful at work, my goodness, would that devotion translate to more aspects of our life, whether that's cooking, being healthy, in your partnership, in your friendship, in your relationship to the earth and your own body. So I see that, and I took 10 minutes to answer that question, and hope you don't mind.
No, I don't mind at all. And I think that yeah, that's interesting, because I think there's a lot of, there's infinite ways to receive that quote, right? Like, I think some people, even if like their day-to-day job isn't something that is really fulfilling or things that they, enjoy doing, they could still see work as devotion to their families, because, hey, I'm going to go to work so that I can make this money because I have kids that I love and want to take care of. Like, that could be a whole nother work as devotion. And then, I think for me, like, there's even a piece of it that work can be devotion to self-growth. Like, just the what we've covered today, just kind of the willingness to continue to learn and put yourself in positions where you've never done something before. So it can be a devotion to just a continued exploration as well.
Yeah.
And really, like, the thing that I think we got that kind of made us emotional is just the devotion to something that we really believe is part of a greater purpose and a greater good. Just really that service to humanity piece that I think everybody sees that differently too, and everybody contributes to that differently. But I think that piece really does light a fire. Like, if you really believe you're doing something that's helping others, I think that's fuel. That's fuel for a lot of people and a lot of different, it can keep you going even if the day-to-day is really hard. I mean, you see it in nonprofit work all the time. It's like, my gosh, some nonprofits are like losing money every day, but they're so committed to it. And not that that's good or bad or whatever, but I think that the power of that service can be almost like intoxicating at times.
Oh yeah.
And there's sometimes where that goes a little too far and you forget to take care of yourself in the midst of that. And I know I've been there for sure. And so finding that balance between, okay, work is devotion to who? Is devotion to self, it's devotion to other, it's devotion to the divine. It can mean a lot of different things.
So many, yeah. When you take into cultural, religious, societal contexts in different regions of the world, even within a particular country, let's say, it can manifest in an infinite amount of ways. And depending on your age group, and as you mentioned a little earlier, if you have children, or others who are dependent on you, then the work and devotion really it needs to be as a more selfless act. I think I speak from the position and sometimes privilege of like, hey, I don't have any debt. Hey, like, I don't have any kids. or outstanding owing to the bank or a person because my parents played some good cards.
Yeah.
So that I can enable myself to really think more on my needs and my growth and interests.
Right.
Not many people in the world have that.
Yeah.
Even people from quote unquote economically developed countries of the world, a lot of us are still in a position where we can't act and work or think as freely. Acknowledging that, and I love your share about, I just really enjoyed your share about, contextually, what would that look like for each person? I'm curious, I want to bring up the fun fact that we physically met in a really cool space on the other side of the world, known as Conscious Impact. And I'm rocking the shirt here today.
Yeah, you do have the shirt on.
In honor of that is our meeting point. So in tracing back the years and the decades of how we came back together, and for you before that, because you know the co-founder from back home in Delaware, on the East Coast. But yeah, we met in a context where karma yoga, the act of service, is the name of the game. Yeah. Where people go there, myself, yourself included, so we can learn from the local community members in that part of Nepal and to apply ourselves physically and culinarily and in other ways to help one another out, on our own individual journeys, as well as those who are less resourced, right? Whether that's like access to education or just like financial literacy and like needing an extra pair of hands on the field because rice harvest season is there, right? And for us, it's this immersive experience to what life in rural Nepal could look like. In that way, it was an exchange of time and energy and devotion. And I love that forever, the context in which we met. And we shared, 2-3 weeks or so there?
I think I was there for a month, actually.
Yeah, probably a little longer.
Yeah.
And I remember very vividly going through a colorful Dasai festival where we dressed up and got the tika, the blessing on our head, the bamboo swings, and you hosting a couple yoga classes on one of the terraces, and just all the community gatherings that we had. And still we fondly talk about the people that we know mutually. I love that. I'm curious, as I set that stage and that visualization, because I know a lot of the people who are listening have either have heard about, or are the people, movers and shakers of Conscious Impact itself. I'm curious, now that it's been some years, in what ways do you think that experience of spending that month in the Himalayas, trekking as well, outside Conscious Impact, being in those mystical mountains, being close to the birthplace of like the Buddha and also the ancient scriptures of the Vedas and the originating motherland of yoga, right? Like, how has that added to your life? What aspects do you still carry with you in your day-to-day life?
Yeah, good question. I haven't really thought about that or reflected on that recently because it was, years ago. I mean, the thing that first comes to mind is, and what I really loved about Conscious Impact that was different than some of the other NGOs that I have worked with, was the pace at which they worked. I felt like it was much more natural, much more seasonal, and like in sync with nature. And I've worked for a lot of NGOs that, I mean, not that they're not doing good work, but the funding is coming from corporations. And so then there's all of these different contracts and rules, and this money has to be spent by this time. And so schools are going up quickly, buildings are going up quickly. And it's like, okay, fantastic. And is it sustainable? Is it fitting into the planning of the neighborhood or the village? Is it, you know what I mean? It's just
too
like,
fast.
It's too fast. It feels too Western. you know? And so what I like about CI is not only like the different projects that they have going on between the education portion, the agroforestry portion, the building, the brick making, all of that, but it just seemed like that organization does a really good job of showing up and saying, how can we help? Rather than, hey, we have all these ideas that we're going to implement and tell you how to do it. And that can be really dangerous when you're going to a different culture in a different country. And I know that's something that's talked about in those circles and in those realms, but that's the first thing that comes to my mind about this real humility of really being there to serve in the way that the community most needs it, and not coming in with a preconceived notion of what that's going to look like and what the time frame is and how to do it. It really does seem to be coming from a place of that karma yoga, like how can I be of service and how can I be of help, and teach me how you want it done, and I'll teach you what I know, and we can come up with something together. And it really is that exchange, kind of a symbiosis that's created. I think that really shines through in the strength of the relationships that CI members have with the local community, and being there year round, and just knowing a couple of them like Beth and Mariana and Orion and Greg. I mean, they're so dedicated to it, and that feels it's inspiring to me.
Yeah.
Like for me, it was like, we joke about it. Like my body doesn't do well with lentils and beans, that like I don't do well on that type of diet. And so I can't stay there boots on the ground for very long, but I am continually impressed by their dedication to it. And also like thinking about, like, I like that word exchange, because I don't know, like I think a lot about this idea of Seva, which translates to selfless service. At this moment in my life, I don't really believe in that, because just thinking about life force and thinking about reciprocation, which is like how everything natural works, like, the bee has to come pollinate the flower in order for the flower to bloom. And then, it just happens to carry the seed to the next place. So just so happens, right? Or there's only like one type of wasp that goes into a fig fruit and like allows that fruit to ripen, or however that works. I watched a video on it the other day. It was like the most incredible thing I've ever seen. And so the bee is getting drunk off the pollen and the nectar, and it's having a grand time. Yeah. And it's also serving the flower. And I think when I say I don't really know if I believe in selfless service, because in order for us to have vitality and to have life force, we have to be getting energy from the energy that we put out. There has to be an exchange.
Otherwise, it's not a full exchange.
Otherwise, it's not a full exchange, and you're going to burn out quicker than you want to.
And as we talked about with nonprofits, NGOs, that often have a component,
it's so right? with that kind of burnout and martyrdom.
So that is something that this thought on Seva and exchange is something that's come out of your experience in Nepal.
I think it has, because I do think that in working for a couple different NGOs and watching people burn out in the name of service, and then having to leave because they're hospitalized or they had a mental breakdown or whatever it is. And then watching people who are doing it in a way where you can tell that they're personally gaining so much vitality and so much love and so much like fulfillment from the work, but they have seemed to find a really good reciprocal relationship with the service. Like that, I think CI, at least from my perspective, like I'm thinking of like Kumari, like that works so well, I think, for a lot of people there, because there is a devotional aspect. There is like, I'm showing up to help, but they're also recognizing that like I gain a lot of fulfillment from this, and that keeps me going. Like, what is that fuel, that keeps people going? And for me, I think learning from that is like, I used to want to push just so I could like be of service at a place like All Hands or a place like CI. And I got sick every single time and got burnout and was like, I got to go home. And so the learning process for me has been, okay, maybe like that is not how I can be of service in that particular way, in that particular place. But it doesn't mean that my service can't take another flavor over, in this way. And I mean, yeah, I think that that's an ongoing thing for me, an ongoing exploration. But I think coming out of that time, I definitely saw people doing it in a way that felt more balanced than I had in the past.
100%.
And I don't really know exactly what that is. I think it's different for everybody.
I like that. At the core of it is all of these stories, all of these meetings and new experiences come down to, these are reminders to simply be more balanced in our energy expenditure.
Yeah, but do you know what I mean by like, I think in the nonprofit world, there's a big idea of service for the sake of service or selfless service. It's like, well, who is the self? What do you mean selfless? Yeah. How do I exist so that I can continue to give more? So that's just something that I ponder about.
Sure. It's making me ponder now. Like all I can think about is like balance, energy expenditure.
Well, because that idea shows up. Yeah, because that idea shows up in all areas of life. Like if you were to consider your work, selfless service, okay. And then how are you then navigating how much you're giving and how much you're receiving, and not in a transactional way, in like an energetic way? Where is that good middle ground for you? And how are you, like you said, finding balance between the output and the input?
Constantly doing temperature checks and adjusting.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is woof. I'm gonna sit on this later today and tomorrow.
Cool.
Yeah, you've like unintentionally given me a prompt to kick off the new Lunar New Year. I'm like, oh, Andy just like did a little mic drop, but it was actually just a reflection, but it was definitely a mic drop in my head. Dang.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, what I actually think it also is connected to is the balance between like the masculine and the feminine. Because this output, productivity, that carries over into the nonprofit world in a way that is like, well, where's the receptivity? What are you receiving? And I think we're pretty conditioned and trained to be like, oh, we don't need anything. We're just doing this out of the goodness of our hearts, which, yes, okay.
Up to a certain point, and then the realism comes in. The realistic needs, because the Conscious Impact CI team and I have talked about it was like the first 2 years we ran on like the goodness of the heart.
Yeah.
And like this burning desire to help.
Yeah.
But on the third year, it hit us so hard of like, okay, we really have to balance our books.
Yeah.
We can't sustain ourselves if we don't balance the books and find either enough people to come in and then they donate, and we're at the mercy of the amount that they donate because we don't require a certain hard amount.
Right.
And then, or we explore other ways of making money, like an angel investor, right? Someone that hopefully has no strings attached to like, hey, here's $50,000 to utilize for your operation. Or 3, find other ways of bringing income that still utilize our land and our talents, like hosting workshops and retreats. And all 3 of which were like, well, can't put our eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
This is all like necessary. We're definitely at a point in our organization where we're like, yep, we can't just be like, oh, it would be really great if you like put money on a Kickstarter and Indiegogo. Like, no, like, even if we're just eating rice and lentils,
Right.
like we still need to buy lentils.
Right. I know, it's like these material world things that it's just part of life. It's part of life.
And I think it made all of us who are interested in and took part in the deeper conversations of admin, or like the core group as we call it, of like, okay, like here's the realistic aspects of running an NGO. Here's realistic aspects of us being foreigners coming to a foreign land and working as symbiotically as possible with people here who have radically different upbringing, extremely different access to resources and you know, societal conditionings. And it's like, this work is difficult.
Yeah.
We can't simply label ourselves as these like free-loving, energy exchanging hippies in the Himalayas going like, come do work and build earth houses. Someone's got to do accounting, hold the receipts. Someone's got to market and bring in a teacher to maybe have a yoga retreat.
Yeah.
Hey, Mariana, can you host a workshop so that you can teach others? And people are coming in to pay for the workshop. And in doing so, sustain the fact that we're still buying cement for the earth breaks, you know, buying saplings and other seeds for our nursery, you know, so on and so forth. So in a way, if I look at it that way, looking back at the years I spent there, it made all of us be more realistic. It made all of us be like kind of entrepreneurs because we had to, you know? And then in doing so, because there's still this culture at our camp, at our community to be like, well, choose your own adventure, because you still have to honor your skill sets and your interests. And so I naturally went towards the overarching themes of like, these are the systems that need to be put in place.
Classic Aquarius.
Right? Classic me and you know, being a generator, being an Aquarius, being someone that has studied like literally systems.
Yeah.
And of course doing the photo and video and visual storytelling. And then others fell into other needs and niches. And somehow we've like bootstrapped and like made it work.
Amazing.
Right? And you're right, like people who are there much longer than myself, even myself, right? Beth, Greg, especially, and then Orion, Mariana, and others. My gosh, like if it wasn't for the devotion, coming back to devotion, all of these has to be present and working with each other with a common goal and vision, accepting, embracing the monetary system that's prevalent in 99+% of the world, and going, okay, realistically, I'm still a partner, I'm still a cousin, an auntie, a son, a daughter. I have obligations back home. I can really only spend like 3 to 5 weeks in Nepal every year. That's fine. That's fine. Those of us that have chosen to, those of us that can devote ourselves to be halfway across the world, living a very simple life in a tent, can do so. And yeah, I just find it extraordinary when I look back on it and, you know, reflecting it with you, talking about Seva and like the lasting effects, like, it's, whoa, there's so much in my head right now. It is like the mind palace going, oh, like, what else?
Yeah. I mean, I think the last thing I'll say on that too is just the point you brought up of like, I think it's not talked about enough how difficult it actually is to work with a group of people towards a common goal, also as however many individuals it is leading their own personal path in life and really making it happen. I don't think we give ourselves enough credit for how much navigating and compromise and communication and devotion that takes, whether it's an organization or a company or a family. You know, it's like I've had quite a few experiences recently with my work team where we're really having big conversations about like how to do these work projects with all their deadlines and with all their different goals with the different people involved. How do we cherish each other for the energy that's put in through different steps in the process? And like some of us don't even know what the other person is doing in their step in the process, but how do you like be thankful for them doing that? Because it's not your expertise, it's theirs. And how do we show up to each other with like love and openness when things go wrong? Like all of that is going on.
Because that will happen.
That will happen. I mean, it makes me think of Brene Brown. Like, my goodness, like it's really brave. It's really brave to like do what we're doing here in life, to show up to each other.
Couldn't agree more. I remember listening to that book, Brene Brown's book last year, Dare to Lead. Yeah. I'd be like sweeping the floor or making food and just going like, oh, I'm snapping my fingers and going like, I need to apply that in my life. And I have, I think, in many ways. So I appreciate you that thought. I think I want to wrap it up with something that you've written.
Okay.
So I'm curious, I want to see how it lands in an article you wrote, How Slowing Down Helped Me in Recovery. And any like final advice or thoughts for those who are listening. My whole life, I'd been seeking an existence where I didn't feel like I was standing on the edges of a speeding treadmill, terrified to step down. I longed for friends who enjoyed sitting down on porches and listening to the ocean, reading books and watching animals. It's not like I hadn't found any of these souls before now. I did, and they're still by my side today. But there seemed to be a concentrated number of them that summer in Montana. It was the greatest medicine I'd ever received, the permission to be just as I am.
Thanks for reading that. Nobody's ever read me my own stuff before.
I think it's about darn time someone did.
Yeah. Really the only thing that I'm thinking about now is like, man, what I described of friends that like to sit on porches and have long conversations and watch animals and listen to the ocean. Like, aren't we doing that?
As I was reading it, I was like, check.
check.
For those of us that couldn't see it, we just fist bumped.
What a good reflection. I'm doing that.
You are. You're a living embodiment of that.
Yeah.
You wrote that you published that in 2019.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
We better celebrate that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Things coming to fruition. Yeah, I think that just the last bit that I want to share about that is truly has felt like a dedicated experiment of like following my heart. I had this energy healer that I did a session with earlier this spring, and she was one of the ones that kind of tipped me off to the idea that my body might be happy in Latin America. She kind of turned me on to this idea of how I specifically make moves and make decisions. And she said something like, your heart goes first. And then it takes your mind to a while to like figure out where your heart went. And that is where a lot of the indecision comes from, or the resistance to the natural shift that wants to happen, like the pain that comes from the resisting what is. And she said, like, you know, we were really talking about leaving Montana, and Montana has been so, so special to me. And so it has been really hard to grasp the idea of saying goodbye to that chapter of my life. And she's like, it almost feels like your heart has already done that job. It has already said goodbye and said thank you, and it's in another place. And your job now is to, with your mind and kind of with the rest of your body, like sink in and find it and find where it went.
Catch up to it.
Catch up to it, because it knows and it's going to move, you know? And I feel like it came here. Like, I feel like it came here, and I feel really like it's been a reunion of my heart and my mind and my body here. That felt so on point for me, because when I'm ready for something to change and for something to happen, that resistance, and maybe it takes a week, maybe it takes a couple years of that battle. Should I, shouldn't I, what should I do, blah, blah, blah. And it really felt like your heart left the building, like go with it, you know, go with it. And so I think just coming full circle to just realize, have you read that to me, and wow, I'm here in a place where I feel whole and I feel embodied with like all the other parts of me. It's a good feeling. It's a good feeling. It's like I'm here with myself.
I have nothing more to add. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you for being a friend for so many years, in a way, leading me and Camila here. And all the great advice usually solicited to me, sometimes my unsolicited advice to you, just all the banter and like sharing that you and I have had, the referrals to work, valuing my work, and even yesterday, Radical Truth, like that happened because of you. So very grateful for you and our connection. And gosh, like I could say in a few years, it's like, oh, it's been a decade, Andy. You know, like, yeah, I look forward to that. Seeing how this chapter in Mexico continues to unfold, and just so honored that I've seen snippets of it, and we can call more friends mutual friends now. Yeah, I'm just really grateful for you and stoked for you at the same time.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for all the same, and for cheering me on. I mean, you've been one of those people that I mentioned in the beginning of just feeling really supported by, and yeah, you've been inspiring to me in a lot of different ways when it comes to like the travel piece and doing work that matters to me, you know, and not to say that means getting involved in what you're doing, but it means turning into me and saying, what do I care about? And how can I make that happen? And you inspire me in that way, because you do that. So I appreciate you. Amigo.
Hug it out. I think that's a mic drop.
Mic drop.
That was brilliant. Yeah. We did it. I haven't given you a massage in a long time. Oh.
We did it. Was that good?
That's great. Oh, you don't have to ask me. How do you feel about it?
I don't know. Like, do you feel like you got what you wanted?
Oh, and so much more.
Good.
And so much more. what can I say, eh? Like our decisions in life, day by day, moment by moment, really lead us to our ever-changing, unfolding realities. I'm truly a believer of that now, having lived so many versions of myself and having seen Andy and a lot of close friends and even people I'm just meeting for the first time live through different versions of themselves. If we allow ourselves to change our mind, have the courage to open up ourselves to different ways of being, relocating, not letting our titles and our jobs define who we are and box us in. Wow, the infinite possibility, the magic behind who everyone is and can be, as Andy said. I think that seems to be the secret sauce, so I'm all in for it. Since recording this episode, Andy has gone all in into working with women, really trusting her body's wisdom, educating women on menstrual health, cycle wisdom, and female body literacy. I think there's such a untapped potential for women to really unlock their personal power as we, I think, regionally and also globally push against the oppression of patriarchy and women liberating themselves and each other to have equal pay and to step into positions of beautiful responsibility and coming from a place of nurture and not competition and domination. This work is vital, and I'm here to support fellow sisters, aunties, and grandmas in their journey to really liberate us as a collective. I'm really here for it. So just so thrilled that this conversation, even if it was like a midpoint in our evolution, there's no end point, is there? I'm here for it. It's a snapshot in time, and that's what the beauty of storytelling, interviews, podcasts, photographs can be. And I look forward to where this journey of our friendship and this journey of life takes us. Thank you so much for listening to the very end. I so appreciate your time and attention. See you again.